Hey everybody, my name is Brian Baker. I'm obviously your instructor, and it's week 11. So this week we're covering Chapter 9. Chapter 9 is all about cybersecurity, which is actually a fairly interesting topic and fairly important. Whether you are going into programming, networking, any sort of IT field, or really anything with technology, honestly any job, period, you're going to need to know something about cybersecurity, even if it's something as simple as choose good passwords, update your system, and don't click on links in emails if you don't know who sent it to you. Those three things alone can protect you fairly well, right? But there's going to be new exploits and new things that come out all the time, and you're going to get messages at work, regardless of where you work, that will hopefully protect you, your data, and your company. So pay attention to them. Point being, regardless of where you are, cybersecurity is affecting everybody. Credit cards are being stolen. Social security numbers are being stolen, private information is being stolen. And it's just one of those things. The internet is great for providing access. It makes it easier to access stuff. That is a great thing and also a really bad thing. And so you kind of have to know why it is you're using what it is you're using. Sometimes the benefits of that access outweigh the risks of losing the information. And that's true for a lot of things. And so cybersecurity is just something we sort of have to live with at this point. Just like you would put locks on your home and you would make sure to not leave the door unlocked when you walk out, you're going to need to take care of yourself online. And again, a lot of it comes down to just really basic stuff. The vast majority of hacking in the real world is actually just social exploits. People calling up, asking for a favor, asking for information, that should not be given out but gets given out, and then they use that. It's not necessarily high-tech stuff. Of course, there's also high-tech stuff that can, encrypt your hard drive so that you can't access any of your files until you pay a ransom. It's called ransomware. It's kind of the newest trend, and it's really scary and terrible, and so that's why you should not click on links in emails if you don't know who sent you the email. Point being, it's a big topic and really important. We talked with people from Fresno County in their IT department just actually a couple months ago, and they all said the same thing. Like, people who are experts in cybersecurity are finding their ways into every conversation at this point. It's something that everybody's taking really seriously. So, point being, pay attention this week in the chapter. You may actually find it really helpful. Now, your discussion for this week is going to be very practical. It's all about you and trying to protect yourself. And so I want you to use two resources. One is called Have I Been Pwned, which it's a whole thing, gamer term. Regardless, it's a kind of a funky name for a website, but it's actually really helpful. What it does is you put in your email address, and they will essentially search these data dumps from large hacks that have happened recently to determine if your email address is associated with any account that has been hacked. So if you were part of the target attack or any of those things, you should see your name in that database. It's a good way to know if your password has been compromised, because if an account has been compromised and you use that password on other websites, then those other websites are now vulnerable. A lot of times you just try to steal passwords so that you can then access the more secure site that's harder to hack using that person's same credentials, because people use their same password for their bank as they do for their Facebook, and that's, by the way, a terrible idea. So check out Have I Been Pwned. The other one is just a website that essentially shows how secure your password is. With somebody using a basic computer, how long would it take them to just brute force hack your password? And so there's a whole video telling you how to use both of those sites, so I won't get into it here. But that discussion is essentially go in, see if you've been the victim of a data breach. Hopefully not, right? Hopefully nobody's had that experience here. And then checking your password to see, do you actually use good passwords? Or should you be adding some complexity to make your passwords harder to brute force attack? And then, as always, there's a quiz on Chapter 9. Now, in my IT lab this week, we are done with Excel, so we're going to be going on to our next unit, which is Access. Here's the thing, access isn't that hard, but it's something that's going to feel unfamiliar to you because you've probably used Word, you've probably used PowerPoint, you might have used Excel, but very few students have ever used a database before. And so Access may be a new experience for you. Now, it's going to feel, at least in the sort of data table view, is seeming very much like Excel. You're going to have a bunch of information. It's going to have columns that have different types of information and rows to hold individual instances of your information, right? So if you're going to keep track of clients, let's say, you might have columns that represent fields of data, right? We call them fields, the things that are the types of data you want to store for each client, like name and email and address or phone number, right? Things you can use to contact your clients. And then each row is going to be an individual client. It's going to be, Deanna Troy and Jean-Luc Picard or whatever, right? They're going to be individual clients of yours. And so it's going to feel a little bit like Excel. Here's where it varies. And I will say that a lot of small businesses choose to use Excel when they really should be using a database. The idea is that Excel is just sort of a flat, rows and columns of data. But databases allow you to access that data in lots of different ways and provide protections for that data to make sure that the data going in is good. For instance, maybe you're using this for a business, so you've got a huge database of inventory, all your products, how much you have, where they're stored in the warehouse, that sort of stuff. Now, if you work in the warehouse, you don't care about orders, right? You don't care about sales, you don't care about any of that. And so a database will allow you to create a form specific just for the job of somebody who handles incoming and outgoing products at the warehouse. And so you can create a little form that just deals with the stuff that those employees need. That way those employees aren't burdened with like all this extra complexity of stuff that they're never going to use. They can just go to their form really quickly. Oh, hey, we got a shipment in of winter boots. This is how many we got. This is where we stored them. Good, right? Whereas your sales team, they don't really care what shelf this stuff is stored on, right? All they care about is who's it going to, how much are they buying, when can we get it to them, and do we have it in inventory? They will care about the number of things you have, right? Because they can't sell stuff that doesn't exist. And so those things, those individual pieces of information would be fields, but you can have multiple tables. You might have a table that is just orders. You have a table that's just inventory. You might have a table that's just your client base. You might have a table that's something else, right? All those tables are related to one another because they affect things. When somebody makes an order in the orders table, that's going to reduce inventory in the products table, right? Everybody can have separate forms, and so you can sort of customize the experience for everybody. Now, I will also say that there's something called reports. Reports, when you first hear them, you're going to think, oh, well, that's not very exciting, right? All I'm going to get is just a report of what we have in inventory. But remember that reports can be written very specifically to create things that you actually use in your business, like, for instance, invoices. Invoices are a great example of a report, right? You can print them out, you can send them to your clients, and then hopefully get paid money because they're paying their invoice, right? There's lots of things like that, where a database allows you more flexibility and the ability to run your business in a better way than just keeping stuff in Word documents and separate Excel spreadsheets. And so because it's a better tool, we'd like to give you some exposure to it so that you can use it in whatever business or organization you choose to work in the future. So anyway, check it out this week, Access Lab 1. It should be fairly simple because it's really just a layout or discovering the interface for Access. Trying to figure out, how do I kind of go from like the data mindset to, and I'm in design view so that I can actually give information on each field. Maybe provide some blocks. So like, for instance, you can't put in a negative inventory. That doesn't make sense and might be used to actually steal stuff from the warehouse, right? So you might want to put that in, that you can never have a negative inventory, or you can never have a negative amount of product coming in or something like that. Access has got a lot of tools, a lot of flexibility. So anyway, this week, Access Lab 1. And that's it. Chapter 9 on cybersecurity, discussion on making sure that you have not been the victim of a data breach, as well as developing a good password. And then your quiz on Chapter 9 and your Access Lab 1. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or message me through Canvas, and I will see you online.